carver. Mostly we will remember Glenn for his loving, beaming smile and his caring nature, and of course his crazy, mischievous sense of humour. His thoughtfulness and caring nature to his family and friends was always part of Glenn's personality, and it was just one of his many beautiful qualities. I recently recall during a visit to Wollongong last year, when he was staying with Amanda, Matt and I took the boys to visit Glenn. Even though he was clearly in pain, he got on the floor to chat with Ethan, our son, about his animals. Because of this friendly smile, Ethan took to him immediately and was happy to tell him all about them. Glenn had this impact on everyone who knew him. His kind heart and caring, fun-loving smile warmed the hearts of us all. Glenn, you will be in our hearts forever. We love you, our dear cousin and nephew. You were taken from us much too soon. Carry our love with you always.
And cousins Joe and Scott. Sorry? Oh, sorry. What happened to Scott? I lost Scott somewhere. That was also on behalf of Scott, folks. I'm going to ask Sister Belinda, to come and read our Bible reading, which you'll also find on your order of service. Thank you, Bill.
I'm going to do a reading from 1 Thessalonians chapter 4, verses 13 to 18. Brothers, we do not want you to be ignorant about those who fall asleep, or to grieve like the rest of men who have no hope. We believe that Jesus died and rose again, so we believe that God will bring Jesus with those who have fallen asleep in him. According to the Lord's own word, we tell you that we who are still alive, who are left till the coming of the Lord, will certainly not precede those who have fallen asleep. For the Lord himself will come down from heaven with a loud command, with the voice of an archangel, and with the trumpet call of God, and the dead in Christ will rise first. After that, we who are still alive and are left will be caught up together with them in the clouds and meet with the Lord in the air. And so we will be with the Lord forever. Therefore, encourage each other with these words.
And Rachel has some words for us, but she's asked that Tim Johnson might read them on her behalf. Thank you, Tim.
It's a privilege, Rach, to read this on your behalf. I remember the first time I set my eyes on you. It felt like love at first sight. I knew then my dreams finally came true. My feelings were right. You're an inspiration to me and many others who had seen what you went through. No matter how hard it was for you, you never complained. You just smiled and you would say, "It will be okay. Tomorrow will be another day." The greatest gift you could ever give me was our 4 beautiful children. I thank you so much for making me a mother and for giving me something to hold on to now that you have gone. They will be reminded every day of how much you love them. You will be the first thought in the morning and their last thought at night. You always were and always will be. I remember the day that you passed. I watched every breath and kept praying that it wasn't your last. Then when your final breath came, I didn't want to believe. I keep thinking that this is so unfair, and so how could it be? I touched your beautiful face and prayed that you'd breathe again. I wasn't ready for you to go. I didn't want to believe this is now the end. I squeezed your hand so tight and thought how I've now lost my friend, my lover, my soulmate. Then I thought that you are now in peace, not suffering anymore, and your body will no longer be sore. I slowly got up. I knew you had to go, but I really wanted to stay. I leaned over and gave you one more kiss. It was so hard to walk away. Glenn, you are my entire world. I miss you so very much. I wish I could still feel your touch. But for now I have to wait. Until we meet again, you'll always be my true, beautiful Glenn.
Thank you, Tim, and thank you, Rachel. I'm going to ask Amanda and Melissa if they'd like to share with us, please.
Yeah. I wrote a poem for my brother. I'm really sorry. Okay. I remember times in childhood, brother, sister, best friends together always, running, jumping, riding BMX, causing mischief everywhere we went. Oh, those were the days. I remember mum always says you were late, walking, talking, 3 sisters you have, you point your finger and then you would have. I remember together as teens, the fighting, the arguing, all the in-between, the laughing and the joking till tears filled our eyes. I remember those times each day I wake, not understanding God's choice in who to take. A brother, a father, a good man to all. I remember you saying, I have to fight, Manda. I have to fight for my kids. I must fight. Looking at you, our eyes filled with tears. Glenn, you're my brother. Our blood is stronger than this. I remember our last time together, sitting and talking till the last smoke was smoked. Together through your sickness, we could only but joke. I remember I can't say it. I remember them telling us there was no more to be done. Kissing you goodbye was the hardest thing I've ever done. I remember that call on Christmas Eve, the phone call where all come to grieve. I will remember those words for all my years. I remember you, my brother, always so strong and brave. I pray every day your kids will be forever wrapped in your love as you would have had them been. I remember a time when we were young, brother, sister, best friends together always, running, jumping, riding BMX, causing mischief everywhere we went. Oh, those were the days. I will miss you for all of my days. Yeah.
Glenn, my little brother, how you dearly love to be referred by that by your 3 sisters. We were so glad you came back to us in the last 5 years, realising family was important and that you had a special part to play in our lives. I was so grateful when you came to my house to live for that precious 9 months in 2012. You were so sick when you first arrived and loved me doting on you and caring for you. You loved playing the little brother role once again. You loved having Joe and his friends close by to keep you on track. You loved sitting on Joe's front porch of an afternoon and having your deep and meaningful chats. You definitely learned the meaning of love and respect. I loved your bear hugs. You would squeeze me so tight that I couldn't breathe. This always reminded me of how much you loved me and how much you had grown up. You were no longer a little boy. I remember always calling you the halfer. You would bring in my washing for me, but leave the basket of clothes at the line. Or you would cook meat for dinner but not even think about a salad or vegetables. Or you would pull something apart but never put it back together again. I remember the time when your bag burst during the night. You were so proud that you'd put the sheets into the washing machine without rinsing them off first. My next wash was covered in your poo as I hung it on the line. I am so grateful that I had a wonderful 9 months with you. I was so proud of you the night you came to the Motor Neuron dinner with Joe and I, and we sat at the speakers table. You sat next to and were making conversation with the professor. The look on your face when you realised that he was the guest speaker was priceless. And the time you went out to purchase yourself a new shirt, dress pants and shoes to go to the musician's ball. You looked so handsome that night. You were so proud of yourself that you chose the whole outfit, including the tie. You had so much respect for Marietta, Joe's mum, and Mrs. Jones, our next-door neighbour, always appreciating their constant prayer for you. You were always worrying about everyone else, even close to the end. You are definitely an inspirational, strong man who I don't know how you could have put up with all that pain and discomfort for so long. You know we all love you very much and always will. Rest in peace, my little brother.
Danny Roberts, I think you're one of those fearless divers. Is that you?
Oh, yeah, I don't know about fearless. Glenn, Cody, Digger, Kenny Rogers. He had a few different names we knew him by, but I knew him as my mate Coltman. After moving to Woonona, I started at Woonona Public School in first class, and that's when I first met Glenn. We didn't really have much to do with each other at the time, but then he moved schools. I didn't see Glenn again until he started at Woonona High School, and that's when we became best mates. Where we were riding our bikes up the bush, around the town, or going for a surf with the boys, it was always a good laugh. As we all know, Glenn was never backwards and coming forwards. I'm pretty sure we've all been left red-faced on many occasions of some of the things that come out of his mouth. But that's why we loved him so much, his carefree attitude to say what he thought. Glenn also believed that he's a pretty good mountain bike rider, which he wasn't, as most of the guys would know. I remember the one time we were down at Nicholson Park watching the Shamrocks play, which we'd done regularly, when we noticed a group of girls sitting on the hill, and Glenn not one to shy away from an opportunity to impress. Glenn decided to take on the hill and do a big, massive jump in front of him. Of course, this failed, which saw Glenn fly over the handlebars and land flat on his face. With the girls and everybody at the game laughing, we left early. And this was just one of the many funny things I saw Glenn do over the years. You never knew what he was going to do next. Glenn's strong will and determination was something to admire, and shone through over the years of the ups and downs. This, along with the love Glenn had for his children, Chaseley, Kyle, Ainsley and Connor, is what helped him fight his battle for so long, and something I will never forget. As of everyone here and those who could not make it today, I will miss him so much, and there will never be another Glenn Coltman.
Thank you, Danny. My son Tim is about to come forward and read a few tributes from various folk who are very important in Glenn's life. Thanks, Tim.
Okay, the first tribute will come from Merlin and John, Rachel's parents. We were first introduced to Glenn 13 years ago by our daughter Rachel. In the first 12 months, Glenn and Rachel would travel up to Queensland as often as they could see us. Then when Rachel had Chaseley, I would travel down to Corrimal to see them regularly. Glenn would always greet me with, "What's for dinner?" as I would always cook a roast lamb for dinner. It was his favourite. He told me he always looked forward to me coming down so we could have his roast. 6 years ago, Glenn and his family arrived in Queensland to start a new chapter in their lives. They moved into a house just across the road. A few months later, Connor arrived, and that was the family completed. There was a few times on a Sunday that we would all go fishing at Bribery Island. If Glenn didn't get a bite in the first 5 minutes, we would have to all pack up and find somewhere else to fish. This went on all day. We always came home without any fish, so the next weekend Glenn wanted to try again. He was so determined to catch something. We eventually said, "How about you go with the kids?" So he did, and of course he always came back with nothing. Glenn loved his football team, the Roosters. He was always coming over to see who we were going for. Just to stir him up, we would say Broncos. He tried his hardest to convert us to follow the Roosters. We ended up doing a footy tipping comp with a couple of our friends. Glenn was in his element. Of course, he would always pick his Roosters. He would get upset with us all if we didn't pick the Roosters with him. State of origin was another matter. We would be going for Queensland and Glenn and the kids would be going for New South Wales. We would come over and brag about how good New South Wales were and then that they were going to win. But when they lost, we never saw him for a few days, and when we did, he would never mention the game. Glenn also loved his horse racing. He would come over on a Saturday to see if we were having a bet. We would often sit all afternoon betting on horses. Sometimes he didn't win. Glenn was always giving us tips, as he would say, straight from the horse's mouth. They never came anywhere. Sometimes we would tell him we backed them just to keep him happy. The last Melbourne Cup in November, we all had a few bets. He was so happy one of his horses came home. It really made his day. Glenn loved camping. I remember when he first bought the camper trailer. He was like a little kid with a new toy. In a matter of 10 minutes, he had it up in the front yard, and that was where it stayed for a few days. He even slept in it with the kids a few times in the front yard. He was so proud of it. He took the family up to Double Island Point, where he did what he loved doing, camping and fishing. He taught Kyle and Connor how to fish. All the kids loved it. When they got home, they couldn't wait to tell us about the big fish they caught. It may have only been just one fish, but they were so excited that Daddy actually caught one. Glenn also loved his golf. He joined our social golf club. We played once a month. He often made up his own rules. We had to tell him, you can't pick up your ball and put it wherever you like. The game was never taken seriously when Glenn played. He really enjoyed playing golf. Glenn was always borrowing something from the shed, whether it was tools, garden equipment, or pool hoses and pool brooms. He would never bring them back. When we couldn't find something, the first thing we would say, ask Glenn. He will know where they are, sure enough, and he would come walking across the road with his arms full. We are going to miss Glenn and his weird sense of humour. We had a lot of laughs together and a lot of fun times together. I've never seen anyone fight like Glenn. He was determined to be here forever. He wasn't going to let it beat him. He fought so hard, even right till the end. Rest in peace, Glenn. We will always love you like a son. Merlin and John. This is from a great mate of Glenn's, Marcel. I'm honoured to read this for you too, brother. Dear Kenny, you know I'm not very good at this sort of thing. This is probably the hardest thing I've ever had to do. We met in Year 7 when we were 13 and have been the best of mates ever since. Yes, we have had our moments and times where we haven't spoken for a while, but in the end, we always end up together again like nothing had happened. You were there when I first met Melissa, and I was there when you first met Rachel. We have been together for the birth of all our children, the highs and the lows delivered to us both, and we have helped each other always. I still remember the phone call I received when Chaseley was born and how you couldn't wait for Melissa and I to get to the hospital to see her. When we arrived, you could not wipe the smile off your face when you introduced us to Chaseley, and it was lovely to see how proud you were to become a dad for the first time. The proudness you showed that day continued when Kyle, Ainsley and Connor were born. You were an amazing father. The last time we went out together, while shark diving in South Australia, Danny, you and I went to the casino and had the most awesome night, just like old times. I will always treasure our last night out together. The clubbing, the dirt bike riding, the fishing, and all the years we worked side by side are some of the best memories I have, and I will forever treasure them. The house moving. We moved each other's possessions so many times from house to house and house to storage, we lost count. Although it has always been a running joke that we owed each other a move. I have one last move to do for you. You asked me to take you out from Bulleye Point so you can be with your dad, and I will do that with pride and love. You never ran away from a fight, and the fight you have shown right to the end has been an inspiration to us all. I knew you wouldn't give up without the biggest fight of your life, and you proved me right. Kenny, it is time for me to say goodbye. Love you, mate, and I will miss you always. Take care until we meet again. Marcel. This is from the Mixed Social Golf Club that Glenn was playing golf at. It's a poem. We have been blessed with friends I'm proud to know, like Dennis, Doug, Chris and co. There is one person's name that I have neglected to mention as we all gather here today to reflect on his life's direction. He was quiet and shy and good-looking too, an absolute laugh when he has had a few. With a smile and a grin that will light up the room, the question I ask, why was he taken so soon? So as we sit and think about our own lives for a while, it is the little things we will miss, his laughter and his cheeky smile. Let us remember the laughter and fun times that we all enjoyed, that will be sadly missed as we take his passing in our stride. As we reflect on how quick life passes us by, let's give our thought that Glenn is by our side. And that's from all the members from the Woodpeckers Mixed Social Golf Club. And this is from the Four-Wheel Drive Club too. We wanted to be here today to farewell Glenn on his new journey in life. Since we couldn't make it, I thought we could share our thoughts with you. When I started to write this, I found that I was lost for words. They didn't come. However, I was full of feelings and pictures and memories, and I'd like to share them. Simply put, Glenn's smile, the first thing I think of when I think of Glenn. Glenn with his family, 4x4 driving down the beach, doing what he loved, smiling. Glenn helping people and chatting with fellow 4x4 lovers, smiling. Glenn and his family supporting our pink run for cancer every year for so many years, smiling. Sadly, he missed this year's pink run cancer event physically due to being unwell to attend, but he was in our thoughts all day. Rachel still came on behalf of Glenn as he still didn't want to miss out and was able to hear all the stories about the day when she came home. But most of all, every time he looked at his kids or his partner, Rachel, he smiled. It will be his smile that we will all remember the most, a top bloke in the true sense of the word, his caring nature and a genuine goodness that will live on in his children and the memory of us all. Tanya, Brendan and the Forward Drive Club.
I thought I'd just give Tim a break because he wants to say something on his own behalf, and so I'd give him a break after reading those tributes to Glenn. And so to break it up, I'll just say that when I first met Glenn, he was 6 years of age, same age as my son Tim. And when we moved into Bulleye, I was one of the ministers at the Anglican Church, St Augustine's, that Glenn attended with his family. My first reflections of Glenn, and anybody under the age of about 50 here will have to ask your parents when you go home, my first thoughts about Glenn when I met him were that this kid is Fatty Finn and Ginger Meggs all rolled into one. Such adventures that you would read in those comic magazines were so true of Glenn. And that proved true not just from the age of 6 but right through. Timmy, share us your thoughts now about Glenn.
I first met Glenn back when I was 6, and I was at church. Glenn was my first true friend. Our families became friends, and we were pretty much inseparable throughout our childhood. As kids do, Glenn and I shared many things together. Adventures were many. We tested every boundaries our families put in place for us, and boy, we got ourselves into some mischief and trouble. Glenn was always up for anything. He had a no fear outlook on life. We broke into our next door neighbour's chicken coop and stole all the eggs, had an egg fight and smashed them all. Unfortunately, we got caught. Mum was fuming. Mum marched us around to the owner's house and forced us to apologise. We then had to dig a 10 by 4 metre garden trench as punishment. And to this very day, and even a month ago, we still both have calluses on our hands from that day.